Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So I'm going to be introducing Aswood Bousseau. Did I say it right? Bousseau, I apologize. Dr. Aswood Bousseau is an assistant professor at Rhode Island College, the School of Social Work, where she is a licensed clinical social worker. Dr. Bousseau has an extensive experience in inpatient care and community mental health services. Her clinical practice is focused on individual and family therapy with adults in various settings. Dr. Bousseau has over 15 years of experience in the field at Rhode Island College and teaches a variety of courses including human behavior, diversity, and oppression. Dr. Bousseau currently serves on the board of Hope and Change for Haiti as chair of the grant writing committee. She received her doctorate in social work from the University of Pennsylvania. Please welcome her.
Good evening. I want to welcome everyone here, and I want to say I'm a little nervous. Can I start there? Is that okay? All right. That makes me feel better. So when I started thinking about what we're going to do for International Women's Day for this year, one of the main things that came up is the fact that this is the 100-year anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote. And that was an amazing thing. And I feel like that's important to recognize that. Equally important is to recognize the fact that that didn't give all women the right to vote. It did not give all women the right to vote, correct? So to that end, as we celebrate today, I want us to do a couple of things. First, it's important to acknowledge history. Second, it's important to engage in our present. And I think to make a commitment to building a future that is inclusive. And all three of those things are important, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So this year's theme for International Women's Day is Each for Equal. And I think that's really important because then it can start to move us towards being just that, looking at each other and being equal. So as we do that, I think it's important for us to, looking back at the history, I think it's important for us to acknowledge the work of women like Harriet Hawkins and Augusta Chisel, women who hosted suffrage club meetings in their homes in Baltimore in 1915 and 1916. We don't talk and we don't hear these people's names. We maybe have heard of Ida B. Wells and the work that she did in Chicago as part of the suffrage work in 1913. But it's important to remember this history because without it, we don't have a way to guide us currently. But I feel like for me, if I'm able to remember that and not forget that African Americans continue to face obstacles to voting after the 19th Amendment, obstacles including poll taxes, including literacy tests, unless we remember that, we can fall into a pattern where we don't understand how to protect the right to vote. Something that each year still is something that we have to keep thinking about. It's something that we're thinking and talking about just a couple of years ago. And if we're not very careful, it's something that's going to be an issue in our future, right? So for me, it's important to engage in the present, and part of that engagement is realizing what is it that continues to be obstacles for folks. It is important for us to realize that some of us don't have the same opportunities as others. Some of us in this room, there are times that we're told that the playing field has been leveled, but the reality is it hasn't been. It still isn't. And until we work, right, currently in the present, to level the playing field for everyone, then we're doomed to repeat the past. So I feel like we have to be engaged in this moment so that we're always thinking about it. And how do we do that? We can ask ourselves questions like, what can I do? What can I do to make that playing field leveled? What can I do to address gender inequality? What can I do to make lives of children in Rhode Island, lives of people who are suffering from addiction in Rhode Island? How do we help these folks? Until we start asking ourselves these questions, I think it's hard to see that there is still very much a divide. So one of the things that we can do is we can look at ways to address that. We can look at microaggressions that exist in our workspaces, in the places that we spend most of our lives, right? At work, in the gym, at the grocery store. We can start looking at where these different acts, where these acts of microaggressions, where do they occur? Where do we see bias? Where are we bystanders and we wonder, should I interfere or should I just, is that not my business today? Or I don't have the time to engage in that today. And I feel like only by asking ourselves, well, what can I do? Can we really truly make a commitment to acknowledging bias in ourselves, not just looking at others and saying, well, this person, but really in our own selves, because it's part of our culture, it's part of our world. Identifying microaggressions, naming it when we see it. So when it happens to our coworkers, when it happens to a friend, and not just standing by. And in doing that, then we're able to address these inequalities that exist among us. And in also doing that, we're able to then respect the intersectionality that happens. Because for most women of color, it's not just being a woman and issues that happen in the realm of gender, but also issues that happen in race and also issues that happen in class, right? Being able to do that. And to that end, then we can make a commitment to create an equal world. So tonight I ask you to do just that. Let's keep in mind the history, where we've come, and we've come a long way. The fact that I can stand here today, the fact that some of us are able to be here today, we've come a long way. But we have to continue to engage in the present to be able to make those commitments so that our future is one that's much better for our kids, and for our families, and for our loved ones. I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, that was inspiring. Some of those names I didn't know myself, so I'll be researching after.